Welcome back to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, the podcast designed to help you become your true authentic self, create a clear vision for life, and ultimately step into a life of transformation. I'm your host, Braiden Belnap. I'm a transformation life coach, speaker, and entrepreneur dedicated to helping you create that as a reality. But what if you're starting into business, or maybe you've already been in business and you're struggling to step into your authentic self to the point that it's starting to affect you in your ability to persuade, tell stories to your potential clients in your marketing to truly make the impact that you know is possible. That's exactly why today we're joined by Tim Semelroth, because he's accomplished this success. In the world of law, he's accomplished amazing things, but he's done that in a way that he remained true to himself. And he in this podcast, he tells a story where he highlights when that transformation was made a reality for him. In the process, he learned how to tell stories and tell it in a very natural, authentic way that allowed him to transform and persuade his potential clients, as well as trials and juries. With that in mind, welcome to the show, Tim.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. It's a beautiful Saturday morning in Iowa.
Absolutely. Same for Salt Lake City. It's so good to connect. I got to do a little shout out for Kelly Cardenas. That's where we met each other, and his experience, the vibe experience, is a must go to. So if you haven't checked him out, be sure to check out Kelly.
He is a good dude, and I'm looking forward to hearing when he schedules the next vibe experience. That was a great time.
Hey, we'll see each other again then, because I'll definitely be there. Anyways, you're of course in law.
Yes.
What initially inspired taking that path for you?
So I tell people that it's because I was a mischievous middle schooler. And the reason why I say that is because my dad worked in a factory. My mom was a teacher. I had never met a lawyer. And then I go into middle school. I had too much time on my hands, and I super glued my social studies teacher's chair to the floor. And rather than sending me to detention for the rest of the year or anything like that, he realized that maybe I needed to redirect my energy a little bit. And so he told me about this academic competition called mock trial, where the students play the roles of lawyers and witnesses. And that's how I was first exposed to the law. It's how I first met lawyers, because they would bring in lawyers and judges to be coaches and run the program. And I was really lucky, because I realized when I was pretty young that I wanted to be a trial lawyer.
I genuinely believe and know we all have a purpose here in this world. Some of us are just lucky enough to find it at a young age.
Yeah, no, it's my mom actually sent out this. She was doing some cleaning, and there was a note that from when I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and when my youngest sister was in I think grade school, she had to write where she thought we would all be in 20 years. And one of my brothers was going to be a pro baseball player, and something like this. But like for me, it's like, well, Tim's going to be a lawyer, and so it was obvious to everybody pretty early.
That's a good thing. And now I'm curious. I have this interesting question. They always say there's personalities for like career types, like the engineers, the attorneys. Would you say that you just encompass that quote unquote stereotypical personality from a young age? Or is that just a facade that everybody says?
Yeah, I think there are some personalities. I mean, there's a lot of different types of lawyers. But what I tell people is, my mom was a teacher, my wife was a teacher, my sister is a teacher, and that's really how I approach my job. It's like with my clients, something terrible's happened to them, and so my job is to teach them about the system and what their options are. And then when I'm in front of a jury, my job is to be a teacher and teach them about the case and why they should find in my client's favor. So I think that's if I were to say what is my personality, it's like I really have always felt very comfortable and natural in a teacher role.
And that was your second choice of career, right? Was being a
Yes.
teacher.
Yeah. 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 Well, I thought you were going to go back to, I always tell people that, so, mock trial happened in middle school. If you would have asked me what I wanted to be before then, I always told people that I wanted to write comic books. I was a huge comic book fan growing up. And so, but I'm not a very good artist. So it's probably for the best that I found the law.
You can partner with a comic book artist someday, right? And write a comic book around law. But I gotta ask, what your second choice was being a teacher, and I love that you encompass that because you've done that so well, Tim. I mean, you've really taken this general study of law and narrow it in and really have been able to make a major impact. What was that deciding factor of teacher or attorney?
Oh, I mean, I like the idea of being a teacher. In practice, I'm just too much of I like to be in control, and so yeah, the reality of being a teacher is you're part of a big structure, and decisions are made for you, and so like while I admire teachers, I respect teachers. I couldn't do that as a career because it would drive me nuts not to be in control of, uh, you know, be, to have people above me making decisions that would control how I live and work would drive me nuts. I like being I like being in charge of my own life and my own career, and that's another benefit of the kind of law I practice. It's like I practice at my firm, and so if there's a problem with the way things are being run, then I need to talk to myself about it because I'm living the life and the career that I've designed.
Absolutely. You're choosing that,
Yep.
and that's an amazing thing. You have to choose that, or it just wouldn't happen. Like nobody's there to tell you to get up in the morning. Like, come on, Tim, time to go to trial, or time to go give this speech, time to go teach this class. Nobody's there to do that, and so you really have to choose that every single day.
Yeah, I consider myself very fortunate. I never wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, I have to go to work." I mean, there are aspects of my job that are not my favorite, but overall, I'm excited to go to work. I'm excited to interact with my clients because of the type of law I practice, I also get to pick my clients. And so, if somebody's difficult, the only person I have to blame is myself because I was the one that agreed to represent them.
So I'm sure you have plenty of stories where you're like, what was I thinking? Like I knew this in the back of my head. What was I thinking?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I want to bring it back to your childhood, right? Of course, we're all blessed with parents. That's how we got here. How did they play a role in what you do today?
Well, a huge role because my dad is like the hardest working person I know. During most of my childhood, he worked third shift in a factory, and then also he and my mom owned a shoe repair shop. So he would work all night long and get off of work and then go into the shoe repair shop and then work until noon, 1 o'clock, and then go to sleep, go home and go to sleep until he went to work the next day. So it's impossible to live with somebody like that and not develop a work ethic just because that's just the way he was. And then like I said, my mom was a teacher, but really the thing she's my favorite story about my mom growing up was she ran to be on the city council of the small town that I grew up in, and this was back in the 70s. and she, it's when people would go to council meetings and they'd all be smoking cigarettes, and so they had this the room where the council meetings were held was just filled with smoke, and so they were debating whether or not to buy, which at the time was like it was like $1,000 or something, some air handling system to deal with the cigarette smoke. And she said, well, how about we do this? How about we just put a sign in the middle of the table that says, by not smoking, we're saving taxpayers, over $1,000 or something like that. And it's one of my favorite stories about my mom because she's always had a lot of common sense, and hopefully I've taken some of that from her as well.
So did that go into effect in the small town?
Oh no, they bought the area.
Okay.
She was like she was the only woman on the city council, and the guys were like, "Yeah, we're not going to stop smoking."
They're like, we like that too much. I would rather pay the taxes.
Yep.
That's fair. Well, I'm pretty sure. I mean, think of that story, right? Because that's really what everybody does now is like, hey, no smoking on the door. Imagine that being the first story and it breaking like history books that small town city women encourage this sign, and that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But still amazing because it really is common sense, right?
Yeah.
And that really applies, I would assume, to your business is that, hey, like keep it simple.
Absolutely. It is easy to get in the weeds, whether it is about the law or whether it's about somebody's medical history. And a very important part of my job is making things simple. Making the law simple for my clients so they understand what the options are. Making the facts of the case simple for the jury so that they can make a decision. And so that is always part of my job is trying to find a way to explain something complicated to people who don't necessarily have a background in it.
Absolutely. Now you've obviously came to master what you do today. If from afar, I would consider you a master of what you do. um, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like I'm learning something new every day. That's a great part about my job is that you never feel like you know it all, and to be good at it. I mean, the world is constantly changing, whether it's technology or the laws change or medicine changes, and so I I'm never bored.
Absolutely. And I think that's what all people, entrepreneur, not entrepreneur, somebody trying to build themselves should realize that, hey, do you want to be the blockbuster of your own life?
Mhm.
Because if you don't keep developing yourself as a human being, what are we doing here? If you're not going to develop your business in the times of need, law changes over time, whatever practice you're doing, the listener, it changes. And if we don't change, then you just go downhill.
Absolutely. I think, one of the best traits that people can have is be forever learners. And hopefully you found a role in life. Hopefully, if you're working, it's your job where it always challenges you and you're always learning something. Because like you said, that's the secret to success, and it's a secret to long-term success. And so I I am addicted to podcasts, and I'm addicted to there are websites I go to every day to read the latest about this or that, and I love when somebody makes a recommendation for a new book, and so I consider myself very fortunate that I never have a boring day at work.
Absolutely. I love that. So taking it back to when you were beginning, like you were really in the books of learning. I mean, becoming an attorney is not an easy task alone, let alone succeeding in it. But was there any time that you were going down this journey of learning and really becoming an attorney where you're like, is this worth it?
So what I would say is law school was the first time in my life where I wasn't having the best time of my life. Okay. So like when I was in high school, I loved high school. Like I was worried that like I was peaking in high school because I was having such a good time there. Then I went to undergrad and I loved college. And you know, I joke because my wife and I met in high school, and so we were dating in college. And I say, you know, if it was socially acceptable, I never would have left college. I had a great time. Uh, I was ready to leave law school when law school was done. And it's funny because I made some of my closest friends in law school, but the experience itself of the classes and just uh, how much stress there is. I mean, it's there. You never feel like you are on. Let me take that back. I never felt like I was on top of everything, and so I was always in a state of stress in law school. And so when it ended, I was happy to get my diploma and you know get out of there and go to work.
That's fair. So what was the hardest point in was there a hard I should ask, was there a hardest point in law school when you're like,
Oh
this
yeah.
sucks?
So the thing about law school is you only take finals, right? I mean, like everything all semester long is building up to a final, and that is your grade. And your grades in law school dictate what you can do next, what kind of jobs you can have. I mean, it's so grades are very important. Class rank is very important. And so you go a whole semester not knowing if you're getting it or not. It all builds up to a final at the end of the semester. And so first semester of law school was incredibly stressful for me because it felt like everybody was smarter than I was. I mean, you would walk into class and people would talk about the readings and they'd be questioning class and they're giving answers and you're just like, oh my gosh, everybody here understands this better than me. And so it's very easy the first semester to feel insecure, and I certainly did. Then I tell people that you get your grades and you realize, hey, you were actually getting it, and things were going okay. The second semester, first year is awesome because now you start, the stress level decreases and you realize all the fascinating people that you're going to school with, and you get to develop relationships with them. But it's all a big bait and switch because second year, uh, they what absolutely consumed your life, which were your classes, becomes this secondary thing because now second year, whether you're writing for a journal or you are on one of the advocacy competition teams or all that stuff gets, or you're just interviewing for jobs, all that stuff gets added on top of what before was all consuming. And so the joke is the first year of law school, they scare you to death. The second year of law school, they work you to death. And then the third year of law school, they bore you to death. And so, at least for the first two, that was absolutely my experience. I was scared to death my first semester of law school, and I didn't realize that I had the capacity to be any busier than I was, but they found a way to load it on you second year.
Sounds like and I'm not like a fan of like traditional school unless you're doing it with a purpose. But it really sounds like the law, attorneys, becoming attorneys, very structured on, hey, we're really trying to develop specific habits and traits to set you up for success. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole idea of the American law school structure is to, quote, teach you to think like a lawyer, which is to become very, to identify issues and to have a very methodical way to research and learn the answers and communicate those answers. And so, that has its place, but the reality is, as a trial lawyer, like I have to you have to change your mindset after law school, because thinking like a lawyer is fine, but when you actually have to deal with real people, uh, you have to learn to become a real person again. And that's the challenge that people have after law school, is that it truly does change the way you think. And then if you're dealing with, real live human beings again, you got to find a way to shift your mindset back to being a real person.
That's fair. And you're a great dude. So you've done a great job at that, Tim.
Well, I'm a work in progress.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, and I know the audience is going to be curious about this, but what did you have to do? What did that process look like to becoming you? But I want to take it a level deeper. There's a lot of people listening today that are very go-getters. They want the success that they dream about. How did you remain true to you and becoming the best authentic version of you while learning how to be human again?
Well, it helps the kind of law that I do, because I have always represented people who've been injured, and my practice has become more specialized over time. But because of that, that means I work for regular people. I don't work for the government. I don't work for corporations, and so that means every time I'm taking on a new case, I am meeting, a regular person. And so that is helpful, because you realize that you can't talk to them like you talk to your fellow lawyers, right? You have to meet them where they are. And so that helps, when you're actually working with real people, and having to meet them where they are and speak their language, and be aware of the things that they're concerned about. That helps. But then as a trial lawyer, a couple of things that really have helped me is one, I became very involved in using a tool called focus groups, which helps you understand your case better and prepare your case for trial better, where you're talking to non-lawyers, regular people. You're presenting your case and you're getting their feedback. And that was very helpful to me. And then it's been almost 10 years ago, I went to a place called the Trial Lawyers College. And that is a training program. It's 3 weeks long. And when I went, it was in Wyoming, and it is a course that is built around psychodrama. And so that really, which is a form of therapy, and it that was really helpful for me too. And it has kind of helped me evolve, because a lot of the big ideas of the Trial Lawyers College are, the only way you can be persuasive is if you're being authentic, if you're being truthful, and so that means you're not trying to be somebody else. It's, and that's what I tell my students now, is that your job is not to be Harvey from Suits. Your job is to be you, and that is going to make you the most persuasive when you're actually being real.
Yeah, people feel that. They can tell. I love that you called that out. So, and right, what I'm trying to say here is going back to keep it simple. Most people feel like, oh, I need to be this person to be enough, right? Did you ever feel that before you got to your authentic version of self as a lawyer?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I'll go back to, so I was very involved in mock trial in middle school, high school, college. I was on a team that won the national championship. And while that introduced me to the law, it also was kind of an artificial experience, right? Because you're being judged on your performance, and so you would see people who were like incredibly gifted orators, and or they're or they were physically imposing, or they had these this amazing voices, or they were just super smooth. And I remember when I was in college thinking, well, it's like, I'm just a skinny guy from Iowa. I mean, how can I possibly uh, command the courtroom the way that that these more naturally charismatic, gifted people can do it? And so I had this experience that, if you give me a second, I think really helped crystallize it for me. I was in Washington, D.C., working at a criminal defense clinic, and they recommended that I go see this particular lawyer who was trying a case. And so I went to the DC courthouse, and it was a multi-defendant, like drug deal gone bad sort of case, and the prosecutor was this he looked like a former football player. He was huge, and he was just really a really compelling person. And then there was one of the defense attorneys was like this Southern belle, and she, like, it's like what you'd picture of like the homecoming queen of some small town in Mississippi or something like that. And then there was this kind of skinny, nondescript, dude, who was like the other attorney. And I'm like, okay, now which attorney am I here to see? I was asking the person who told me to go to this trial, and they're like, it's that one. It's the last one. I'm like, really? He's the one I'm supposed to go see? And so, here's what happened is I went to trial for the first day, and he did nothing. Like, it was all the other two who were, had parts to do. And I'm like, okay, well, that was a waste of my time. I go back the second day, and the only thing he did was, one of the other lawyers was asking questions and using a poster board, and he's like, here, he just hops up and says, I'll hold it for you. And that's all he did. But then on the third day was closing arguments, and the prosecutor goes first and gives this impassioned, like almost like a Southern Baptist style closing. And then the first defense lawyer gets up, and then all of a sudden, I had been there most of the week, all of a sudden the courtroom starts to fill up, and it's this guy's turn to speak. And he gets up and he just talks like a regular guy. And, sometimes he's funny, and sometimes he's serious. And he just had everybody in the palm of his hand just by being himself. And I was just enthralled. And then he got done speaking, and the courtroom cleared out. I mean, everybody knew. I mean, and so that was a real important moment in my life, because I'm like, oh, I can just be myself. I don't have to pretend to be somebody else. In a real courtroom, people just, juries just want to do what is right, and they want to follow somebody that they can trust. And the best way to gain people's trust is to just be yourself.
Wow, Tim, that definitely is an amazing story, and you tie that together very well. I think at some point we all need that moment, right?
Yeah.
We don't just need the proof of ourselves that we can be ourselves. We almost need that so and so accomplished this, doing it as himself. I can too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that at the Trial Lawyers College, that's one of the main mottos is, you are enough. And it's like, you don't have to pretend to be this person or this person. You are enough. If you just, give of yourself honestly, the jury's going to sense that, and they're going to realize that they can trust you.
Absolutely. I work with a lot of young individuals looking to not just accomplish great success, but the fundamentals is, if you're here, you might as well become who you're destined to be, to do the things you're destined to do. And it starts with the becoming, which you're talking to. A lot of the people I talk to get to success, right? You have to be persuasive, whether it's for your business, a trial, a sales call, whatever the case is. And a lot of these young people that I work with, feel like it's sleazy to be persuasive. One, I think your messaging here cuts that down. Like, you can be human and be a salesperson. You can be human and be the best version of yourself and be an attorney and serve for the right reasons. So I'd love to break that down with you of how you can truly actually be a good human being and be persuasive at the same time.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. So I would start with this. I mean, if you believe that you can solve somebody's problem, whether, it's a lawyer who is representing a client, or, if you're a salesperson, I mean, if you truly believe in what it is that you're representing, then don't you have a responsibility to make sure that people recognize that, and one of my coaches, Ben Glass, he's a lawyer in the DC area, says, there is somebody in your community who you are exactly the right lawyer for. So take out lawyer, you are exactly the right consultant for, you are exactly the right, fitness coach for. And if you believe that to be true, and you believe that you are good at what you do and can help somebody, then don't you have a moral obligation to let them know that you exist and to let them know that you can help them? And that's always been a real powerful thing for me, because people are like, oh, I don't want to sell, or I don't want to advertise, or I don't want to market myself. And it's like, but if you're actually doing good in the world, I mean, why wouldn't you? Isn't that what you should be doing? Because for somebody, you are the exact right person to help them solve their problem.
It's selfish not to.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta, I mean, we weren't put on this earth to play small, right? And I find that I get the most satisfaction when, I'm helping somebody else a lot more than, when I'm doing something that only benefits me. And that's what puts the spring in your step and makes you happy to, wake up in the morning.
Absolutely. What came to mind as you were really talking about that is the difference between passion and purpose. And all too many times people get them intertwined with each other. And they do have a lot of sense of the sameness. I mean, you mentioned comics books, like you loved comic books. I don't know if it is now, but that was a passion, right? It got
Yeah.
you excited. But purpose, the difference between passion and purpose is the fact that passion is solely you. It's a hobby. You can turn your passion into your purpose, which is all about impact.
Yep.
Loving what you do on a day-to-day basis while making change happen for others. And when you marry those two, which I can't speak for you, it really looks like from afar that you're living your purpose every day, that you're making an impact. And how would you not get up in the morning and do what you needed to do when you realize the impact that it's making on others?
Yes. So I have coached mock trial for 28 years. And people ask me, they're like, well, gosh, that takes so much of your time. It takes hours each week. Why, when are you going to stop doing it? And I said, why would I stop? It's like, I love it. I get to meet these really cool people who are committed to doing, hard things and wanting to do them at the highest level. And they just happen to be in middle school or high school. But I mean, it's like, it gives me a chance to meet the most fascinating people. It's like, why would I stop doing that? I mean, it's like, it's like, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it to like earn a living. I'm doing it because I get charged up seeing people, reach their potential. And then, the benefit is you do it as long as me. And then all of a sudden, like, almost a third of the lawyers in my firm are people who I first met when I coached them in mock trial. And so I see the great things that they do every day. I get, emails, letters, run into people at the grocery store who, I coached, and seeing the amazing things that they do with their life is really one of the greatest highs you can get.
That's amazing. So bring it back to persuasive. How can somebody really start to develop that skill that you've learned as being an attorney in trial rooms and having one-on-one conversations? What are some of those fundamentals?
Well, the biggest fundamental is storytelling. If you want to teach somebody something, if you want people to feel a certain way about something, there is no more powerful tool than a story. People are not persuaded by bullet points. They're not persuaded by laundry lists. And so, learning how to tell a story, uh, learning how to identify the stories in your life that can be used is probably the most important step towards being persuasive.
I love it. So let's take that a bit deeper. Somebody's never, maybe they've told stories just from, campfire stories, whatever the case is, hanging out with friends. But how can they really start to develop that skill of storytelling to be persuasive?
So, there's lots of great resources. There is a storytelling collective that started in New York City called The Moth. And so that's when you hear about those, like a lot of big cities. Obviously, we don't have a Moth collective in Iowa, but the Moth is a great resource. They have there's books that members of that organization have put out about storytelling, but a lot of storytelling is kind of being able to identify something in your own life where there was a moment, a change happened. You started out here, and you're a different person, by the end. And it can be big things or it can be little things, but it's that sort of you know those are the stories that are most persuasive. So, if I'm a salesperson, and it's a matter of, like, thinking about who is your best client, like who is the person who you really believe that you helped, and thinking about the story from here's where they were before that, they bought my product or my service or got me involved, and here's where they are at the end. That is going to be far more persuasive, being able to tell that story effectively to the next client, than having a laundry list of the benefits or the features of what you're providing.
Yeah, sell the why, not the what.
Yes, absolutely.
That's definitely a fundamental aspect of sales, right? If you can't get that person to see the future of what's possible, chances are they're not going to buy the product.
Right.
I'm sure that's the case in trials, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you're just not trying to convince a jury of the present. You're trying to convince the jury of what's to come after that trial, after that case comes to a close. So when you talk to the why and you really emphasize what this vision is and follow it up with the what's, they really see the whole picture instead of just surface level knowledge.
Yep. And in the jury context, the thing that you have to understand is that you, as the lawyer, are not the hero of the story, right? You ultimately, the jury has to be the hero. They are the only ones in the courtroom who have the power to do justice. Not the lawyers, not the judge, not the parties to the case. It's the jury. They're the ones that have the power to do justice. And so, I tell people, I tell lawyers, is that, we are not Rocky. Okay. We are Mickey. the trainer. I mean, that our role in the courtroom is to be that trusted advisor, the one who guides the hero to achieve something that they didn't think was possible. And so, which is tough because we lawyers, we tend to have big egos, but the moment you realize that you are not the hero in the courtroom, you are the supporting character, and that the jury is the one who will ultimately be the hero. That's when you become more persuasive.
So I gotta ask, did you have to learn that lesson the hard way?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I tell people that. So I wanted to be a lawyer from when I was 14 years old. I didn't try my first case. I didn't get out of law school till I was 25. So when I was getting ready to try my first case, like it was a big buildup, right? I had spent over a decade, dreaming about that moment. And I tell people I wanted to try the case in the worst way possible. And when I look back on it, I absolutely did, because the case was, it was about me. It was about, look at me, look what I can do. Look, and so it was a hard lesson. But once you realize that, it frees you up to not only be more persuasive, but it also takes some of the pressure off, because you realize that, hey, you know, I don't have to, I'm not the star of this show. And my job is just to give the jury the tools they need to come to the right decision.
And I love everything about this, and I'll tie it into the simple fact that the natural way of storytelling, like in any movie, I mean, even break it down to the movie that you saw last week at the movie theater, right? The goal of the movie isn't for you to just see the movie. It's for you to see your life in the movie. And that's really what starts to transform belief patterns, thoughts, emotions, behaviors, and results in life is, I mean, I know there's a lot of like not so many fans of the new Lilo and Stitch movie. I personally loved it. But the whole concept is like, hey, you don't leave family behind, right? And when you watch that movie, yes, it's a cartoon in some realism fashion, but I still saw my life in that movie. Like, oh my goodness, no, I don't want to leave my family behind. No, I don't want to leave my wife behind. Like, that's not going to happen. And that's the power of storytelling is yes, you're sharing something, but is the other person seeing their life in the story? And that's the change maker of whether your story is actually persuasive or not.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. It's the you know the reality is that we have a lot more in common than we think. And if one of the great things about the Trial Lawyers College is, through the tool of psychodrama, you are sharing personal stories. And it is amazing how when somebody tells an authentic story from the heart, how deeply that connects with you. It connects with you on a level that I can repeat, and you don't, because there's confidentiality, but I can repeat almost every psychodrama story that I learned when I first went through that class, because it was people telling authentic stories of their own lives and seeing it in action, and that made, you connected with them on a very deep level. And that's, so that's what I'm trying to do in the courtroom, right? Is it's not that I'm saying, oh, look at what horrible things have happened to my client, you should feel sorry for them. It's hey, this is what they're going through, and these are the challenges that they faced, and they just need the help of you, the jury, to be able to get their life back on track. And hopefully they're seeing, it's like, oh, I love my children just like, your client loves their children, or I I have the same hobby as your client, or I remember what it was like to get bad news from a doctor, and after a tragedy in my life. And so, uh, yes, you're telling your client's story, but ultimately, if you're doing it right, the jury is seeing themselves in that story.
Absolutely. So outside of storytelling, is there any other fundamental skill that you feel like these individuals should learn to become better persuasive storytellers per se?
Well, we already talked about the first one, which is, being not trying to be somebody who you're not, being yourself. So, number one, I would say you have to be yourself. Number two, I would say you have to learn how to be a storyteller. Uh, and the thing that we haven't quite touched on is that is related to storytelling is the ability to see stories in your own life, to identify those stories. And so I'm learning a lot about that. I'm older, and so I didn't grow up on social media. Facebook didn't come around until I was, already in law school, and so I have tried to learn social media as to understand both my clients and to connect with people through the different platforms. And one of the things that I learn in when I talk to people who are experts in how to have a presence on LinkedIn or in Instagram or things like that is the ability to identify stories in your own life and things that resonate. And so maybe it is an interaction that you had with your child, or a a memorable date with your spouse, or a lesson that you learn from a parent or a mentor. And so that, I think, is step number three, because ultimately you can't, I think it's very hard to sell what you haven't lived. And so you may think, well, I haven't, I've never experienced this, and I haven't had that particular experience. Well, sure, on a superficial level, maybe you haven't, but there's been something in your life where you felt that way. There's been something in your life that taught you this particular lesson. And so now the key is, how can you incorporate that story into your persuasive presentation, because that's going to be where the connections are made.
Absolutely. And so to round this out, right, if you really want to become a persuasive individual that's your authentic self, one, keep it simple.
Yes.
Become your authentic self, right? Tell good stories and build your own stories. And what I'd love to add on to like building your own stories, I have this model called GROW, GROW. This is how I find my own stories personally, because as a coach, as a podcaster, that's a crucial point for me to help these individuals listening to this podcast that they too can transform their life. They too can become their authentic self and create that dream. G stands for grasp. What is the situation at hand? Like, what are the details going on? Who was there? What did it smell like? Where were you? Right? It's the fun part. And a part of grasp is, what was the pivotal moment that put you in a hard place? R stands for realize, which is like really realizing the pain and pleasure of where you're at. And O stands for overcome. What was the process of you overcoming that mountain, that hurdle, that wall, whatever's in front of you? What was your process to overcoming that? And W is win. What was on the outside of that? Who did you become? What did you accomplish? And what I find is, when I implemented that analogy into, hey, what stories do I have to tell? Really got my mind thinking, like, what were the aspects that I really had to grow into, that I had to consciously choose? And as a result of that, I have a plethora of stories to tell now.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, man, you have got to start listening to the Moth podcast or get a book by the Moth, because they use a very, there are a lot of similarities between how they teach storytelling and what you just talked about. And so I think you would love it. But one of the things that they say that is incredibly consistent with your grow framework is the idea that a story involves change. You start out one place and you're in a different place at the end. Everything else is just an anecdote. People think that, oh, well, this funny thing happened to me on the way to work. Well, if, that's an anecdote. That may be fun, maybe, but like a story, something that is going to touch people, is going to move people, always involves a change.
I love it. I'm committed to the Moth podcast and books, so I will let you know when I pick that up. Anyways, what's next for you? I want to tie it to this as well. You say you're always learning something new. So what is Tim learning now?
So I am listening to podcasts and watching videos about artificial intelligence almost every day. I think it is a fantastic tool. It's not, there are a lot of things it's not, but there are a lot of things that it can be. And I'm just fascinated by the ways that I can use it in my job and the ways that I can use it in my life. I love the idea that when I get home from work and I open up the cupboard and there's a bunch of random ingredients and I'm too tired to figure out what to make with it, that I can type those ingredients into, an AI machine, an AI tool, and say, give me some options for recipes that I can make with these things. I love the idea that when I feel like my workout is getting stale, I can, type in, hey, give me 5 other exercises that I could do instead of this, this exercise. And then, as a storyteller, as somebody who tries to teach on a regular basis, it's this amazing brainstorming device that I can use to develop metaphors and different ways to explain things. And so I just think that it is so I'll tell you a story. So I was teaching a class at the law school about jury selection 2 weeks ago, and one of the things I had to lecture about was this very dense social science journal article. So it's a peer-reviewed article. It's super dense, and I had read it, but I realized, hey, I'm gonna upload this article into Notebook LM and have it create my own personal podcast about it, and that's what I'm going to listen to on the drive to the school. And I walked in and I'm just like, hey, it was a great sort of reminder for me. And that's when I realized, like, if I was going back to law school now, I would be, everything would be completely different, because I could, you can have an AI tool create flashcards for you when you don't understand a concept. You can say, okay, I didn't get this. Explain this to me. What are the themes? Here are my notes from, yesterday's class. What are the connections between these 3 cases that the professor had me read? It is not a substitute for anything, but I saw somebody online. I watched a video that I thought he had a great metaphor, and he said, you have to stop thinking of artificial intelligence as a tool, and you need to start thinking about it as a teammate. And once you do that, it can increase your capacity in so many different ways.
AI will and has already changed the world. Might as well get on the bandwagon now. It's not going away.
Yeah.
And it makes things easier. And the one thing the reason I'm such a big fan of it as well is time. I now can create posts quicker. I can write fundamentally what I want to write and have it better. You mentioned make it a teammate, right? If I'm going to write a post to post out into the world for this podcast, I would take it to my teammate and say, hey, help me out with this.
Yeah.
It's a teammate. And as a result of collaborating with AI, I get to spend more time with my wife and my dogs, my family. Like, I'm going to take that as a win.
Yeah. So there is there's a great legal technologist by the name of Guy Sakalakis, and I love his quote. And he says, "Let the bots do what the bots can do, so that you have time to do the things the bots can't do." And in the practice of law, that means, hey, if you can use the bots to summarize complicated documents for you so that you have more time to call your client on the phone and find out what's going on in their lives, then it's a win-win, because you're still mastering all the information, but you're forging a better relationship with your client.
Absolutely. I love that. Honestly, it's been an honor, Tim. I really just meeting you the last, month and a half ago. Like, truly, thank you so much for coming on my life. It's been a blessing. I know the people listening to this feel the same way. I have a couple more quick questions and then we'll come to an end.
Sounds good.
First is, what is your definition of an authentic life?
I think it is living a life that you are proud of. It is living a life that fulfills you. So you're proud of it because what you're doing are things that, I'm okay if my mom hears about it. They always say in the law practice, it's like you should never write anything in a letter and email that you wouldn't want to see, like on the front page of the paper. And in my life, how I look at it is, I love my parents and I want them to always be proud of me. And so, whatever actions I take in my life, I want I want to make sure that they're things that my parents would be proud of, because they work very hard to put me in the position I'm in now. And then it's got to be fulfilling, right? I mean, and that's where you have to find something that matches with who you are. So, I was very lucky. It's like I realized what I wanted to do when I was really young, and it worked out. But I recognize that that's not the common experience, and people are trying to figure out what they want to do late in life. And what I tell my kids is that, you're going to figure it out. There's going to be something, if you're open to it, that you realize it's like, when I do this, it energizes me. It makes me feel like I'm doing what I was meant to do. And you'll find that. And when you do, you'll succeed in ways that you never thought were possible.
Absolutely. Well said. And I just want to come back to like how amazing you are. Like, this just reiterates this, right? One, shout out to your parents, because it sounds like they did an amazing job. But thank you. You're not just inspiring the future lawyers of the world. The people listening today are truly in the act of becoming. And the fact that you've accomplished what so many people dream of, and you've still found a way to, when I'm gonna be proud of myself every day, and I'm gonna make my parents proud, and I'm gonna make other people proud. But I'm gonna build a fulfilling life. And you've done that, remaining true to you. Like, we need more of that in this life, Tim. So thank you.
Well, it was a pleasure. It was a great talk. I mean, this is the prime example of what I'm talking about. I'm energized. Like, I'm gonna end this conversation, and I'm gonna have a great rest of the day. I already know it, because we had this, this very real, very authentic discussion between the two of us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for coming on, Tim, and I hope you have a good rest of your day, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us today on the Journey to Authenticity podcast. If you liked what both myself and Tim had to say today, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. This helps to ensure that I get the highest quality and most interesting guests to help you have fun and transform along your journey. With that in mind, have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody.